Can you cite some examples of setting up a commercial intelligence desk to track global / domestic market drivers and dynamics, which you mentioned in your talk?
That's right, correct. There are no examples as such, really speaking, but look at me as an individual. I've been in agribusiness space, tracking agribusinesses for the agriculture and agribusinesses for the last 3 decades and more. I have a certain, I've developed a certain knowledge and certain interest. There are companies, for example, multinational companies, which have their own research. The US Department of Agriculture comes up with a monthly report on various agriculture products. But they only give production and consumption numbers. But the market is far beyond all this. For you need to know, we need to track, for example, economic growth, which has a positive correlation with commodity consumption. We need to track geopolitical developments. Through the crude oil route, geopolitics will have an impact on cost of production. We need to look at the monetary policy of various central governments, central bankers. We need to look at currency movements, and we need to look at weather conditions. We also have to look at transport bottlenecks, which have happened in the last 2 or 3 years. So there are multiple drivers. And this is not a knowledge that can be gained overnight. This is a process where I said, I am willing to help the industry train people, and they will get trained over a period of time. And therefore, the industry should know all the drivers of the market. Industry should know how to track the drivers of the market. Industry should know where to get information from, and the industry should know how to interpret that information, which will impart dynamism to the market. Yeah.
So the next one also to you. Can you share examples on how poultry producers can engage with farmers producer organization, which you also mentioned in your talk?
Absolutely. I would strongly pitch for at least to start with large poultry players to establish backward linkages, talk to farmer producer companies. There are a few thousand farmer producer companies in this country. Many of them focus on soya, many of them focus on maize or corn. And you need to engage with them. You need to tell them how much what is the quantity of crop that you want. You can even tell them if there is a quality specification. You can tell them the quality specification. You can help them access seed, appropriate seed to get that quality. You can help them with appropriate agronomic practices, scientific agronomic practices. And when the crop is ready for harvest, then there is the contract to buy back the entire harvest. Therefore, it's a win-win solution for the poultry industry and for the farmers. Farmers produce on your behalf, and you buy back and pay the farmer whatever is the market price. This is number one. Second, you can even price your output in advance. In the month of June, you can contract with an FPO saying you are willing to buy his produce at a predetermined price. Okay, even that is possible. Now, how do you predetermine that price? Is a part of negotiation between the poultry industry or the poultry unit and the farmer producer company. But there is a more scientific way of doing it, which is that you enter into a contract for contract farming, and when the crop is ready for harvest, you look at the futures prices on the exchange. And then you decide the price based on the futures prices on the exchange, because exchange traded prices are a lot more transparent than the physical market prices. For that's another way. All this is doable, and I'm willing to share with the industry players a lot more information than what I'm speaking now. Yep.
Thank you. I pass it on to Harish for questions to Greg.
Yeah. This question is from Rakesh Raj for Greg Hill. Greg, he wants to know, comparing all aspects like environment control, labor cost in India, and the necessary automation, what you have suggested, and the liabilities and FCR, considering all these things, what do you suggest? Is closed house economical, or the open farming in India should continue?
Okay, thank you for the question. It's a very good question in that we're all in this industry for economics. And while a primary breeding company is focused on biological performance, it's really ultimately economics that determine a lot of the choices that we make. So whether environmental or open house, which one is economic? We could see some of the numbers where we look in the trial data suggesting 10 points of FCR. If you think about your size of your integration, could you or would you like to see an improvement of that magnitude across your operation? If you just think about FCR. Now, I know there's more energy input, there's more capital investment, but I truly do believe that that's the future of the industry. I think we are seeing it moving in India more towards environmentally controlled housing. There is a long tradition in India of open house. I think that still has a place, but we can look at the scope and size of your market, that the only way to expand at the volumes that's projected, we need to move to controlled environment housing. I think you can do the maths in terms of economics. I think it does pay a dividend, definitely.
Yeah, this question is something similar from Manoj Shinde of Vista, and he wants to know EC farms are capital intensive and how these can be made with low cost capital investment. Going ahead about this. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your question also. I think there is an opportunity, perhaps as an intermediate phase, to rather than, if you already have open house and majority of open houses in your operation, to enclose those existing buildings and insulate. So you can retrofit fans and inlets into existing open house. It's not going to be as good as constructing a fully fledged new EC house of today, but you can find a happy medium if that gets you across the line. So slightly moderated capital expenditure. You're not going to get all of the all of the performance gain that you would see on a new EC house, but it would get you a long way.
May I also respond to this question? Yeah. All right. How do you reduce the capital cost? That's a simple question. I'm sure the government of India has enough money, and institutions like NABARD have enough money for granting capital subsidy and interest subsidy. I think the industry needs to send out a proposal of how much is the subsidy required and what will be the impact on the number of jobs created, impact on business, impact on contribution to the society, etc., from a sustainability perspective. And I think that idea should be marketed amongst policymakers. And I think it is doable. I draw inspiration from the Textile Mill Modernization Fund, which we had a few years ago. And similarly, I'm sure from the Government of India, we can seek Poultry Industry Modernization Fund. Is my view.
Yeah, there is one more very interesting question from Mr. Chandrasekhar. This is from Godrej Agrovet Chandrasekhar to Greg Head. And he wants to know, is it possible to increase the male percentage of broiler day-old chicks? Because they perform well, why don't you produce more males?
Very good. Look, I'm sure, and in fact, I did read some research recently that was promising that this is possible. And it's something to do with vibration in incubation stage. That at this stage is not technology that we have commercially available or anyone has commercially available. If it was easy to do, it would be done. And certainly, I think if you're producing birds for a market, and as you move to a further processed market, you actually need a bit of variation to meet all of your product requirements. So if we look at a lot of countries that are further processing heavily, they still require the small females and the larger males. But I certainly take the point that if you could focus on one sex for optimum performance, the males certainly do outperform the female. Yeah, thank you.
So, Harish?
One more interesting question. I think then I'll be over with his questions. But I think this question looks like it is addressed to me. But anyway.
Oh, okay, you can answer them.
No. It's for you.
You can be my guest.
It is from Dr. Rahul Roy Gowda from Veterinary College, Bangalore. And he wants to know, is there any AI-based poultry farming where pH, airflow, temperature, humidity, movement of bird, height of feeders and drinkers are maintained without error? Is there, or there will be something commercial farms of this type coming up?
Okay, so by AI, we're talking artificial intelligence, yeah?
Before you answer, can I answer?
Yeah, of course.
I would like to, I always on the lookout of such farmers. They can come to us and we can do anything you think.
Yes. Look, yeah, we are moving into a new age with, we heard already mention about new technology and information of things, IoT. Connecting chicken houses and monitoring systems. We're also looking at cameras that can predict bird weight and uniformity. So technology is really developing. So nothing is perfect. We still have environmental challenges to deal with. But I think that we are seeing a potential for new technology to come into the industry. So we're talking about moving from closed house to EC house, but we can also be thinking about smart technology and smart farming in those new EC houses. So it's certainly something that we are watching in the industry very closely. I hope I answered your question adequately.
Yeah, great.
Thank
Couple
you.
of more questions to you.
Okay.
So this is from Dr. Damodar from Suguna Foods. So he's asking the usage of chlorine dioxide in water. So maybe your views on that. And what is the ideal pH of water for all types of poultry birds?
Okay, good question. Thank you. My preference, and I didn't delve into this today, just principally because the majority of the sanitation in India is chlorine-based. But chlorine dioxide is a far superior water sanitation method. It provides biofilm stripping and prevents biofilm buildup, but also it's effective at a wide range of pH. So there's some real advantage on that. The disadvantage is it's more expensive, and there are some safety concerns with using and administering the chlorine dioxide. So you need pumping, dosing systems, and so forth. And sorry, the next question was around the ideal pH.
Ideal pH of water for all kind of poultry birds.
All kind of poultry. Yeah, also a nice question. For me, certainly acidic. I prefer to see us keep away from alkaline water. That alkalinity is going to help encourage biofilm deposits. We can keep in a slightly acidic state. 6.2 is a nice place to be, somewhere around about there, in my experience. But just slightly on the acidic scale.
So this is coming from Mr. Ramanna Reddy from Seven Hills Poultry Farm. He wanted to know, can you also give us information on flaws of layer farms, commercial layer farm? So he liked the flowers term, and he's asking for layer farms also.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. And it would be my great pleasure to be invited back next year to talk about layers and floors for layers. I do think layers, they're still going to consume feed, water consumption, all of those elements of floors for your broiler production still relevant for layer. There will be some fine tuning and tweaking, but yes, it would be my pleasure to do a presentation on that also.
So next one is from Dr. Gautaman, who is also into education of veterinary. So he's asking, what is the current trend in slow-moving broilers when compared to fast-moving broiler? And there's an add-on question to it. How much slow-growing broiler increase the carbon footprint?
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the very first part of the question.
First one is, what is the current trend in slow-moving broiler rearing?
Sorry,
what is the current trend?
Trend, okay, Thank you. Yes, there is a trend in some European country towards slow-growing product. Typically, we see that in markets that are well-established with poultry industries and where welfare, antibiotic-free, and now we're moving towards slow-growing product. It's actually counterproductive in terms of considering our environment. So we actually saw an impact, I believe it was in the Netherlands, where they're quite a proponent of slow-growing product. With the war in the Ukraine and grain prices being affected, that the interest in slow-growing products changed quite quickly. So there's an economic component to this, and there is also an environmental impact. The slow-growing birds do not produce at anywhere near the same efficiency of a normal white-feathered broiler. So I can see the future. There is probably a niche market for that, but in terms of that becoming a mainstream product, I think we're a long way off from that yet. And the more importance we place on environment and sustainability, I think the focus is going to be on the prime product that is a white-feathered broiler. Thank you.
So I think in the interest of time, we'll just go for the last question. And apologies, we cannot cover all the question at this point of time. The speakers are available during the lunch and in the entire day. So we request all the people to reach out to them, have a chat with them, and get your queries answered. And we are also making a note of all your queries, and the answers would be given by speakers, and we'll upload on the website of the Poultry India Knowledge Day. So last question to you, Chandrasekhar sir. What is your view on the role of poultry sector in achieving United Nations Sustainable Development Goals?
Absolutely. This is a great question. I've studied several industries and several commodities and crops and their contribution to advancing SDGs of the United Nations. And my own exercise suggests that the poultry industry in India, on current reckoning, is in a position to contribute to advancing as many as 9 or 10 of the 17 goals of the SDG of the United Nations. And therefore, this is the big strength of the poultry industry. And you need to actually lobby the government. You need to educate policymakers about how this industry is able to advance up to 10 goals out of the 17 goals of the SDGs, and then tell the policymakers that because you are contributing to advancing SDGs, that you need to be treated a lot more preferentially than you are being treated at the moment. I think you should make that as a bargaining chip, in my view. And there are ways of doing that. Maybe we can engage offline, and I'll share my thoughts with you.
So thank you so much for asking your questions. So I pass it on back to you. Thank you.